is going on with the CARES Act. Ann Lee's driving, so I'm gonna let her change the slides.
Yeah. One thing I didn't mention is this is being recorded for folks who it's going to go on our website. So FYI, it is being recorded.
So just as a reminder, there were actually 2 CARES Act commitments that Greenville County made. The first was for $1.7 million for preschool age programs. And you can see here kind of where we are with it. We've got about 129 sites that received funding for preschool age services, and they're serving about 6,275 children under the age of 5. The second grant was the $2 million grant that received a lot more publicity, and that was for helping providers to serve children who are school age on the days when they can't attend school face to face. And you can kind of see in that first column, the first column, kind of our goal was 160 sites, and kind of how we broke out our goals. And then if you look at actual to date, we have about 113 sites so far. One thing we're finding that really surprised us, but I'm sure you have experienced, is we've had real success with getting childcare providers and after-school providers to open a classroom. And so we've got actually more sites serving 6 to 29 kids than we expected at this point. We're having harder times finding providers that are willing to open up a full facility to serve school-age kids. And so you can see there our goal was 65 and we're at about 20. So we still have a long way to go, but our goal is to have all of this in place by October. So we're still on track. But I just wanted you to see kind of where your site fits in this large scale project that we really could not do without each of you. There are about 25 sites that'll probably come online after Labor Day. And so you should see a pretty huge leap here. But, you know, as we look at the district and the need that we have to serve these kids on the days that they're not in school, there's no way that one provider could have stepped in and handled all of these families. And so we really appreciate you for stepping in and taking, whether you're serving one family or whether you're serving 75, we really appreciate it. Here's the next slide has a map, just so you can kind of see. This is on Kidding Around Greenville site, but we often get asked, where are you located? So we send them to the Kidding Around Greenville directory, and you should definitely check the directory and make sure that your information is there. And then this map helps people see, like, if you're in the Travelers Rest area, there are actually 4 providers up there that are currently serving families. And so it should help our families find a provider that's most convenient for them. We have awarded $736,000 in workforce vouchers in the last 14 days. And that's a pretty substantial number, especially considering our original budget was $350,000. And the request that came in from you guys to help families on your centers really was overwhelming to us. And so we actually went back to County Council and helped kind of restructure some of our funding to put more dollars in there. So 210 Greenville County school employees have been awarded scholarships, 90 Greenville County employees, 124 families who are at 300% or below the federal poverty level, and 312 families who were identified as essential workers. Currently, we are out of funds for the families at or below 300% federal poverty level and for essential workers. But we do still have funding left for Greenville County school employees and Greenville County employees. So if families come into your center and they're looking for vouchers and they're a Greenville County employee or a Greenville County school employee, you should absolutely apply on their behalf. And we're awarding vouchers at $100 a week for now 8 weeks, because we're into the 10-week original 10-week program. If they come in and they are at one of the other 2 categories, we currently don't have funding for them. You can go ahead and apply if you'd like. You'll get a denial from us, but we're keeping that list live so that should we determine that we have additional funding available, then we could go back to those families and at least help them for the part of the year that we have funding for. So I would encourage them to keep coming, but there currently are no plans to award any additional funds for essential workers or families at or below 300% federal poverty level. I know Ann Lee is managing the chat box, and so as we go through this, if you have questions, definitely put them in the chat box. And if we don't get to them today in the live conversation, then we'll absolutely get back to you personally. We have allocated $140,000 for enrichment. The Greenville Nonprofit Alliance has been contracted by us to handle this project. And so they have two jobs. One is to go and find enrichment partners, and they've found dance studios and artists, and they found musicians, and they've found fitness and wellness programs and science programs. And they have vetted those programs and believe that they are offering a high quality service for you. They are also then reaching out to you and the other 115 providers to find out what your availability is and interest is in lining them up. If they have not contacted you yet, they're going to. They had to work in phases because there was just too many folks to call at one time. So they have a plan to get to everyone. And so the Greenville Nonprofit Alliance is who will be contacting you. They have your information because it was in your registration form, and we just gave them all of your email addresses and phone numbers. So be on the lookout for that. They'll line up those visits around your schedule and the vendor schedule. The vendor invoices the Nonprofit Alliance directly for those visits, so you don't have to worry about paying them for these services. It's all included in it. And currently their goal is to get about a visit a week per location. So there's still plenty of opportunities for it. If they didn't start this week, they're going to get to you soon. You can't really see this one here, but I'm responsible for the screenshot, so it's my fault. But one other resource that we really wanted to provide for you was a place where we could just keep uploading resources as they become available. So this conversation will be uploaded to this page. This is the Kidding Around Greenville resources page, and you should have received a link to this. We'll send it out again in a follow-up email. But if you go to the kiddingaroundgreenville.com/resources for COVID-19 out of school providers, and you use the CARES Act password, it's a password protected area that's just for providers who are participating in this program. And we're uploading trainings, and we're uploading documents, and we're uploading resources, and we're uploading links to other activities. So particularly today, as the conversation kind of gets into how can childcare support school-age students in their learning, my hope is that we'll learn of more resources and links that we can embed in this page today. So keep coming back to this page, and like I said, we'll send that link out again to you. So that's all I have. And now I'm really excited to get to introduce our two speakers. So we're going to start with LaVonda. LaVonda Paul is with Small Impressions, and I met Vonda actually my first week at First Steps. She was a First Steps partner those many years ago, and long before that, and runs a really incredible program. Small Impressions is just really super. And one of the things that has always impressed me about Vonda is her intentionality about building a relationship between her center and the school down the street. And so I just wanted her to talk for a few minutes about kind of how that works and maybe what successes you've had, just to provide any sort of advice you might have for some of these providers who may have never even considered what schools are around them and what their relationship could be like. So Vonda, if you could take a few minutes, we really appreciate you sharing with us today.
Okay. Thank you for that lovely introduction, Derek. Providers, you're not in this alone. I'm with you. But I'm going to share with you a few tips that I've came up with that has really been successful so far during this virtual process. I created a contract between myself, the students, and the parents that we went over. We put together things that were realistic, that could really happen. What's expected of the parents, what's expected of the children, and what's expected of us as Small Impressions. Once we did that, we're on the road running. Parents in this contract found out that they need to let the teachers know that their children are coming to Small Impressions, and that Small Impressions, a staff member would be contacting the teacher. That has been wonderful. Every Sunday night, I am getting emails from parents forwarding me emails from their children's teachers to let me know what's coming up, what's taking place with the week in reference to their child. I had a local school, matter of fact, it was Brooklyn. The administrators called me, hey, Miss LaVonda, are y'all good? Do you need anything? How many students do you have attending your center that are children of our school? Again, open door communication between myself and the school, letting them know we're in this together. Providers, there have been glitches every now and again, but when you come across a glitch with being able to send the child's work back in, don't get in a panic. What we've learned to do, take a picture, send the teacher an email with the child's work, keep it moving. That has been a plus for us. And when we respond to the teacher or communicate with the teachers are more than happy that you sent the email with the work, because it is showing that the child did do it. So don't get overwhelmed, don't get burnt out, don't get discouraged. There are things that you can do to just keep it moving. Some other things that we have implemented so the kids won't get so antsy and moving about when they get finished before other kids. Simple games, sit here and draw. When it's their next time to meet their teacher, the kid write down the time right here. I have a big digital clock in the after school room, so they know the right amount of time. Look at the clock to see what's your next meeting. For my other fidgety kids, just with devices to keep them engaged when they're waiting for their phone to get checked, when they're waiting for the next meeting, or have they finished up all their work. We try to look at what could we do to make our program as successful as possible without the children get burnt out, the children getting distracted, the children getting restless. I'm not gonna say we have a 100% proof thing in place, because we do have a few kinks, but for the most part, I can say us implementing these little small things have been tremendous help. The kids, when they come in every morning, they already have a basket that they can put their work in, so it's not a whole lot of moving back and forth trying to find their bags, their pencil, their this, everything is right there at their station. So again, I'm here to help anybody that needs help, has any questions. And we're still learning too, but these are some strategies that we have put in place and implemented, and it's working just fine for us.
Find out, you weren't supposed to take questions, but I've got one for you. So you mentioned a contract, which sounds like your commitment is to be in a relationship with the parent. And so, so is it generally your expectation that the parent is keeping you up to date about what's going on with these students and what they need to get done? And is that, or do you find most of your communication is happening between you and the school directly?
Both. It has been equal on both sides. When we email a teacher, they respond within 30 minutes back to us. The first week of doing virtual, after each student was finished with their Google Meet, myself or another staff member popped on just to say, hey, I'm Miss Lavonda. I'm the Small Impressions. Such and such will be with me doing this virtual process. I just wanted to put a name with a face and understand I may be contacting you from time to time in reference to whoever. And I just want to know that we're here together to work together. And that has worked great for us.
Thanks, Fonda. I really appreciate you taking the time to share with us for a little bit. So I know there are questions coming up in the chat box, and Ann Lee is going to take some more questions to Vonda. Hopefully you can stick around, because I know some of them are for you, but just in the interest of time, we'll go ahead and keep moving.
Okay.
Before we introduce Dr. McDavid, who I'm really, really excited is joining us today, I do want to say a special thank you to a couple other people that are on the call. One of them is Cindy Weathers, Park Place, because Cindy emailed us an email with about 30 questions that she wanted answers to. And if it wasn't for Cindy's email, we wouldn't have really known where to start here. And so I really appreciate Cindy always being on top of kind of, have you thought about this and how can we help with this? And so I really appreciate her. And anytime you ever have a question, we're happy to help facilitate that. So thank you, Cindy, for doing that. And the other person I really want to thank is Whitney Hanna, who I don't think is speaking today, but she is present. And I have to tell you that the $3.7 million of CARES Act funding didn't just materialize because we asked for it. There was an initial need, which was the school district actually bringing the need of what are we going to do first with our employees and the children that our employees have who need care while they come to work. And then that led between the school district and First Steps and the YMCA to a much broader conversation about what does our community need. And so each of you has stepped in and filled that need, and we really appreciate it. But Whitney really got the ball starting on that, and I really appreciate her for that. The other thing Whitney did was bring Dr. Charlotte McDavid, so this will be my transition to her. Dr. McDavid is the Executive Director for Academic Innovation and Technology at the district, and I'm sure she has a presentation about what she does in the district, but I will personally say that she is one of the smartest people I know, and it's just such a privilege to have folks like this working at the district who not only bring an incredible amount of intelligence to academics, but really understand what families are going through, and are just so willing to use personal experiences to help think about how we can improve the services being provided in our schools, in ways that are relevant to the families and the needs that they have. And so it's always a privilege for her to speak with me and to teach me. I have lots to learn and always benefit from her. So Dr. McDavid, I think you're going to share your screen now. So I thought I was stalling for you, but I didn't do it well. So thank you, Dr. McDavid.
Thank you so much, Mr. Lewis. And I want to begin by saying, on behalf of Greenville County Schools, thank all of you for what you're doing to come to the table and to have this seat with us so that we can share with you and you can share with us things that will make your service more fruitful. You are definitely rising to the occasion. I don't think any of us could have anticipated a year such as the one we are having, but insofar as we are in it, to have your hands and your spaces and your hearts working with our students makes a lot of our employees able to teach at ease because their children are in care. It helps the families that we serve have a place where their students can go to school on the hybrid schedule because you have someplace safe to go during the other times, and we're able to do all that we do because of you. And I want to say thank you for that. We're always appreciative of first steps and the efforts you make for the community and for our young learners. And so today I'm going to share with you not only from the perspective of academic innovation, but of a parent of a virtual learner. My son is now a 6th grader, so he's still very much a late elementary, early middle schooler, and he's in the same position. He's with grandma. And what I'm going to share with you is what I share with grandma, things that can help him to be successful. You've met me, and I know we don't have a lot of time, but if you could, please type into the chat the name of your company, your organization, and the number of students you have. That will help me put into context who we're working with and how we can be of better service. Whitney has been great, and thank you, Ann Lee, for pulling this together. And I think I'm able to share my screen now. So I'm going to go ahead with that, sharing with virtual learners. Okay. As I said, I'm a mom, so supporting virtual and e-learners has been an important part of my role. When we put things into place, we know that our plan impacts more than just the learner. It impacts the entire school and the entire family. So today we're going to talk with you about how we're doing this. We'll talk a little bit about the virtual versus traditional, our school day, attendance, live sessions versus the recording, and how we support those virtual learners, along with how we communicate with our teachers, our Google Classrooms, our assessments, and where we can get device support. On the resource page, information for parents and updates, there's a brief overview of the difference or comparison between the virtual learners and the traditional in-person attendance. And I wanted to point this out because you guys have both. And while the virtual program is up and running, we have 100% online all year. I heard Vonda mention having the students on live in Google Meets with teachers, and that's a great portion of it. For the most part, that is the way the students are interacting with those live and recorded sessions, face-to-face virtual instruction. In the traditional classroom, now that we're in the hybrid schedule model 1 or 2, our students will be moving between in-person and face-to-face or e-learning depending on the community spread. And right now it's 1 day per week, soon to move 2 days per week. Greenville County Schools has vowed to give at least 5 days notice when there is a shift, and beginning the week after Labor Day, we're looking at 2 days per week. The attendance is important in both, and really we want to be sure that students are able to do the work. When you're working with them, we want you to realize that we're moving a lot of students through the virtual program. K through 8, there are over 17,000. High school has another 5,000 or 6,000. So a lot of students. We have over 600 teachers across all subject areas, including those special services. And with that, the teachers are doing live instruction daily. Office hours are there daily also for teachers. In e-learning, right now we're doing 1 to 2 days per week. And on those e-learning days, students receive virtual instruction covering new content and practice and even some assessments. And that's important to note. In the spring when we did e-learning, we were in an emergency situation. We were not sure that all of our students had access to the tools, so we were doing a lot of review. Now we're introducing new content, which comes with some videos and preparation and instruction. This is on our website in supporting parents, our parent resource page. We want you to be aware. Yes, parents will let you know, but stay in the know about our virtual attendance, our attendance plans, and how those might shift. This also has other links to pages that you may find helpful. The one that I wanted you to see was this hybrid of in-person learning, the expectations. Our teachers are working very hard to try to do two things: teach the students who are in their classrooms while giving students who are outside the classroom or participating in e-learning valuable experiences. So you know that the students are working and that there's a lot of work. So they're doing daily videos and lessons and activities in Google Classrooms. There are some live sessions. For example, my son has one today with his gaming instructor, and that will be a live session that was sent out this morning. They're getting weekly feedback, and we are going to continue to do that. Most the teachers are having planning on Fridays, so their planning period becomes their office hours, and schools have published what their daily check-in times are for Friday for those Google Meets. The biggest thing I know we encountered on the first day was logging in. The Chromebooks went out, and not all of our students, especially some of our littles, knew their names and usernames and passwords. This, and we'll provide a copy for you, shows you that username, the first initial of the first name, first 5 of the student's last names, plus the last 4 digits of the student ID number, and the student password being their birth date without the slashes. That was the most important thing that I could say. If we roll this out again, we'll make sure that they come to you with those usernames and passwords in hand. Most of our students know these, but the beauty of it is it's a district assigned username and password, which will follow the students throughout their career. So if they've done this in the spring and will be doing this again in the future, some may opt for virtual learning next year, they'll always have that username and password. I think the most valuable thing I'd like to share with you is the same thing I'm sharing with my mother-in-law, and that is how we navigate the Google Classroom. The Google Classroom is like a digital learning space. It's like you have your students and you've stepped into their learning space, but it's digital. Our teachers are using that classroom to stay in contact with students, to share their assignments, to give them their link to their activities, and it's also how we manage the assignments and stay organized. If you've been working with students, you can see that they can submit a survey or a quiz, and there's not an extra step to do so. As they're completing assignments behind the scenes, those assignments are saving in a folder by classroom for the students to be able to go back and look at later. So when the students log in, they go to the Greenville County School District authentication page, and they will log in with that same password. This is what it looks like, and picture it as a small school classroom, but the teachers were going from class to class. You have from that home page the class title. In the elementary, we are using the reading classroom for now. So elementary, the littles, they'll have one classroom. That was done to make it easier for them to navigate, understanding that going from class to class is a little more difficult. But for the middle and even some of the upper elementary, they may have a couple or even up to 7 Google Classrooms, but that folder puts them right in. The class title to enter the class, and they click on the folder to go directly to the drive where I said that all the work was going. And the class ID icon is to show them the assignments for the class. And students may or may not have gone through this with their teachers. This presentation will be available to you because it's helpful to share. When the students are in your center and you have them sitting over, and it's like, where do I begin? On the side in the corner, these 3 dots, that's the starting point. This is where they can toggle between classes. It shows them their calendar, and it allows them to view their notifications from the teacher. That's the go-to bar. Once they're in, many students begin with the stream. These are the announcements. During the day, the teacher may ask a question. He or she may post additional information or announcements. That's in the stream. The students also, where they see the assignment, they can type something and say with the class, or say to the class, Mrs. Jones, this link is not working. Mrs. Jones, I'm unable to get the video to play. They can do that here, and the teacher will have that direct communication where they've posted comments. But this classwork tab, that's where we really live. That's where the assignments are. It shows the point value of the assignment, the due dates, and students can still post comments here. To check on specific assignments for further details, that's the types of assignments. But we live in the classwork when you're helping them. Many students will begin by going in, and my son is the same. I want to go in this class first. I want to see what this has to do. I want to go in this class first. I want to see what's here. Students can get lost in all the work. So using the classwork tab is a way of having them to stay focused. If they get in the stream, they really can get lost in the stream. Stay in the classworks tab, and they can see their assignments. They can see when the assignments due, and they can post the update. The shortcut, not the shortcut, but once it's done, they do have a turn in button, and that's important. The turn in button we'll talk about a little bit in just a second. But while they're turning it in, there's a comment button. So a student may say, I was in class yesterday, so I did not complete this assignment, but I'm doing it today. Anything that they would like to share as a private comment to the teacher regarding this assignment, they can do so as they're submitting it. You can also, if you work with the student and notice that the font was too small, the student couldn't read it, or the student had difficulty maneuvering the mouse to drop and drag all of this, let the teachers know, because that will influence how they will continue to provide assignments. And then on top of the stream and the classroom, there's a people tab, and that lets you contact the teacher by email. Students can go to their Gmail, but if they go here, they can contact the teacher. The teachers will show up, and the email button is right there. If you're working with littles and working with the younger students, we want them to begin to notice how they might go about doing emailing the teacher. Making comments is one thing, but sometimes it needs to be an email that goes out, and you too can use that email. Now the game plan, this is what I share with Grandma Liz. The game plan, go in every day, open the classroom, go to the to-do tab. When you look at the page that has all the classes or the one class, this one is the to-do tab. That to-do tab gives a student a quick overview of things that are due today. It also, when you go to it, you can click on the assign button to see what is assigned, the missing button to see what might be missing from earlier in the week, and then there's a list for things that are done. If students go, whether they have one class or 3 classes or 10 classes, if they start with the to-do, everything that has a due date is listed in the to-do tab. And it will show them when those items are due so that they can monitor things that might be due Friday versus things that are due today. With projects and some of the students having long-term assignments, if they can easily get stuck in doing something that would take a little bit longer, when in fact they need to work on things that are due today. So that is our game plan for today. When students are submitting work, you may want to ask them to let you know before they submit it so that you can see it. This is my very own son Avery's, and he has to sometimes add something. They can click turned in, but if they don't add the slide deck or add the assignment, it will show that something's missing. And if that's the case, your work turned in, no work was attached. He needed to go back and unsubmit that, attach it, and then go back. So the students, when they're turning in their work, I would advise you to have them to let you know before they submit so that you can monitor their progress on that game plan or to-do list. Vonda mentioned schedules. Students who are working can get burned out, so it is important to set up a schedule for them to include breaks and lunch. Those who are in the virtual program have a schedule that includes breaks and lunch, but all students need that. And as you have other activities that they may engage in that allows them to get up and move around, that's even more conducive to them keeping their brains fresh for the next activity. Supportive learning. I know that each student has a district issue Chromebooks, and we recommend using that because that is for safety, that is for us to monitor their progress and their use, and it's also to keep it safe, and we were locking down the browser for assessments. Some of you may have had students who've had difficulty this first week with technology. I don't know if I've ever started a year, this is my 28th, I don't think I've ever started a year without a few issues with technology, even if it was just the technology of my handwritten grade book where I couldn't put the names in until I knew I had all of my students and they would be in alphabetical order. So we had some of those same issues during the first week, and we have worked with our providers, our vendors, we work with Charter, we work with Dell, and we're trying to get those up and running. If you have in your organization or your company some spare devices, I would recommend having something on hand, as well as reminding our students to bring their chargers, because the devices last a long time, but they don't last forever. Strong internet connection. Some students were getting kicked off if the internet connection became unstable. So if you have multiple students working, some providers have shared that they've gotten the boosters or the routers, that extra boost that gives their Wi-Fi more power and more reach, because the more students you have on going in, especially when they're on Google Meets with the teacher, the more difficult it is to maintain that connection. Minimizing the use of other devices. We know that there's some devices, even if they're on their free time, that they can use, but if they're on the internet, that's pulling on the ability of the others to have a stable connection. We did make mobile hotspots available for students through December, and we'll work to make sure those are available on an ongoing basis. Headsets, I'm sure you guys have done this, having headsets for each child if multiple students are working in a shared space. And that's, we recommend even at home or with a sitter. A headset will help to reduce the distraction for the students, and it will help the other students to focus around them. So being sure we have those and that they're keeping those clean. Again, going back to communicating with teachers, we cannot emphasize enough the importance of doing that. Our teachers are actually learning to work in a new environment. They are still learning more about their students. So there are times when you may find that the work may not have been what you would consider to be enough, or the work may have been what you might consider to be too much. Our teachers are learning our students, and in some cases, the same thing that takes one student 20 minutes and they're done, takes another student 2 hours. So we are learning how much we can assign and how we might differentiate that for different learners. So if you find that the students are struggling with the time, or some students that you have may need additional accommodations for time, please do let the teachers know that. You don't need to keep a log. We actually can monitor the amount of time students spend in their district, on their district device, and we can monitor the time they spent on most of the assignments. It's one of those Google things that we use in education to monitor progress and engagement. Emailing the teachers, I showed you that link. Please do try to help our students learn how to do that as well. That is a communication skill. And even as early as kindergarten, we would like for them to express and advocate for themselves and express their challenges. Our teachers are open with office hours, and now in the, they have phone numbers in the traditional brick and mortar schools, but we are getting ready to launch our virtual site, and our virtual site will have on it Google Voice numbers for each teacher so that they can be called during certain hours of the day. But communicating with the teacher, as Vonda mentioned, is one of the most important things we can do, but we do want to help our students to continue to do that as well. At this time, I think we're going to move into questions, but as we do again, I want to say thank you for the service you're providing for the parents and our families, and know that you're helping Greenville County Schools keep our students and our staff safe. To note that we have over 115 school-age childcare providers open and willing to do what needs to be done to keep our children safe, helps us to know that our community is really that village we need, especially during this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlotte, for kind of talking us through all that. And sharing some great advice. I did some quick math based on everyone typing in how many students they have at their organization, and we have about 500 students worth of care just on this call. And so thank you for sharing this information. I know it is all really helpful. I'm gonna throw out a few questions, and then if anyone else has any others, we have a few more minutes that you can either type it in the chat box, or in a little bit I might open it up so you can unmute yourself and just ask a question. But Charlotte, you talked a little bit about space and the importance of headphones and potentially an extra computer and those sorts of things. A lot of these providers are setting up brand new spaces. Maybe it used to be an after school room, which looks very different than a space that's conducive to intentional learning, right? So can you give folks a little bit more advice about what maybe a room should look like, considering they might have between 4 and 30 students?
Yes, yes. We in education made a move to flexible spaces. And I want you to know that while you think about students in a traditional classroom and them sitting at a desk all day and working, now we do like to make sure that students have some opportunities to move. So while you may have desks and computer spaces set up around the wall or in a localized area, please do allow the students to have some other spaces, because while you're doing your work, you can very easily do that on the floor. They can do it leaning down. If they have a video that they're watching or a game that they're playing, they can do that on a beanbag or a soft space. We know that eye fatigue when working online can be a real struggle. And so if the students are able to spread out and get comfortable as we do when we're at home, sometimes we're on the couch or sometimes we're on the bed, give the students some flexible spacing for work. Many of the things that they are doing online allows them to not have a core typing a lot like we do when we're at our desks. This space is great for me while I'm working, but for the little ones who need to move, having that flexible space makes it more conducive to them being creative, being themselves, just kind of staying engaged versus sitting and looking directly at a screen all day. Be aware also that the laptops, if they're up on the desk, be aware that some of them, if you watch them, their hands are all the way up here and they're trying to type. Please do give them some flexibility of moving those into their lap so that they're sitting at really that lap space. And if they're leaning down and you notice that they have it, the neck strain and shoulder strain are very real even for little students. So flexible space, yes, a desk and a chair and all that's great, but please, if you can, give them some other spaces as well that they can stretch out and be more comfortable during what would be a school day.
Thank you. You spoke to this a little bit as well, but if there is a kind of technology issue accessing the online content, who should providers reach out to for help?
So the number is 355-HELP. The number is 355-HELP. And I didn't put that slide on because I had a big graphic for it. Everyone needs to call that line. In terms of technology, they can help with troubleshooting. You may notice we're working with our teachers as well, because videos, we've provided some guidance on 5-10 minute videos to provide instructions. Students don't particularly need to be watching 45-minute high-def videos during e-learning. Our Chromebooks aren't set up for that. Wi-Fi isn't set up to stream those long videos. So we are working with our teachers and reminding them that when they're assigning these types of activities, they need to be aware that students are working and not everyone has the capability of doing multiple streams. So technology, the buffering, if a student's having trouble with a large video, maybe ask them to pause that, go to something else and come back at a different time when maybe not as many students are working. The technology issues of being kicked out of a Google Meet, that is something we're continuing to work on. Fortunately, when they're kicked out, they can get back in. Just remind the students that that is happening. We're getting down to fewer and fewer every day. We surveyed all the virtual parents, and I think that our most recent ticket has it down to approximately 200 of our 17,000 are having that issue. So we're getting better on that. But if you're having issues, 355 HELP, they will be right online helping. The first couple of days, I apologize if you called. We had over 4,700 calls the first day. So the wait time was a little bit longer than we wanted it to be, but right now they are available and readily available to assist. Having backup is important. It's 355 HELP.
Sorry, I put 333. Don't listen to me.
355 HELP.
All right, thank you. Vonda actually spoke to this a little bit too, and you spoke to the fact that students learn at different rates and different levels, and it takes some students an hour and it'll take another student 2 hours, just depending on their learning style. So knowing that there are students at different times throughout the day and many students in one room, do you recommend any enrichment activities that students can do to extend that learning should they finish with their work early?
Yes, the students in Greenville County Schools have access. They log in using that same login to something called Backpack. And in Backpack, we have a series of games that are district provided. Some are math games, reading games, activities that students actually love. And so when they are engaged, teachers are working to include in their Google Classrooms links to resources that can extend learning. But if they do not have them in the Google Classroom on the topics or classwork page under a topic called resources yet, that's because we're still working on it. But students in Backpack can access a single login to a number of program resources. Not all of those need to be online. Of course, we want our students to read. So if you have access to books in your space and you want to have with us library supply books, that's a good thing. The students are able to check into our virtual library. We have a program called Sora. We're partnering with the Greenville County Library System to expand our Sora books. We use Epic Books, the teachers use those. So we have a lot of people using books. And I think to extend learning, students who are reading and also get a chance to do some writing, those are some highly recommended activities for students to do enrichment. A lot of questions about how attendance is taking, and I want you to know that we have worked some things out regarding that. We do want our students to be present for those, if they're in the virtual program, we want them to be present for the live lessons. Quite frankly, that's instruction that we don't have to do later if they're able to participate live. But in the e-learning environment, those may not be live lessons. The teachers will go in on the Google Classroom and they will do check-ins. And so they will take in e-learning, they will take attendance by midnight. So students have until, you saw in my son's example, 11:59 to complete the assignment. If the assignments are completed, the students are marked present. If the assignments are not completed, the students are marked absent. And the middle school scenario or the virtual scenario, they're getting marked present during the day while they're showing up for meets. At the end of the day, they may get a call saying your child wasn't online, your child was absent, that's okay. If after they go home, the parent completes the assignments, then the teacher can go back the next day before 11 o'clock and mark that student present. So we want them to be online to the extent possible if there are live meet sessions, but if the students complete the assignments by midnight, they are marked present. Going to that to-do tab lets you know that is the thing that is assigned with an exact time. So the video, I hope you'll send it. I'll send the PowerPoint separately, because if you have people working with students in your organization, you'll want them to go through that. You may also want to use the presentation to describe to students, this is where you need to go. Our sweet students, they do get lost in it because there's so much, and I want to go here, and the teacher sent me to a brain pop, and the brain pop may have one video, but there's some other optional activities, and the kids love brain pop, so they could spend an hour on a 10-minute activity because they're in the other activities learning more. And that's okay, that's an enrichment. But for them to monitor their time and say, okay, your reading hour's over, let's look and see how much progress you've made. If they're still sitting there, then you want to kind of shuffle them along with their other activities. If they miss a Google Meet, is there any sort of penalty? There's not a penalty with attendance. I think the only penalty for Google Meet is that they've missed an opportunity to be face-to-face. let's face it, our students are in somewhat of a vacuum, and to be able to get back to their friends and to see their teachers' faces and have the teachers to respond to that one little question you may have before you leave, that live meet, that live time gives that immediate feedback. If they're watching a recording, they don't have that opportunity to ask questions or to get clarification. So not all programs across the state are using live teachers. Many are using programs or applications that will guide students through the work, and programs and videos. They're using some very effective ones, Calvert, they're using Edmentum, they're using programs for that. Greenville opted, and we talked about it at length, academic specialists, leadership team, the whole nine. We talked about it, and we decided that our students need the advantage of someone teaching them. We believe that the role of the teacher is important, and to be able to see the students, whether it's virtual or face-to-face, but to see the students is an important part of our role and provide that live instruction. So if they are missing that, they are missing something we consider to be very valuable, but they will not be penalized for attendance if they complete the work at the end of the day.
We have another one that says, what advice would you give to staff helping a group of kindergartners who are having trouble focusing and navigating their work?
I think for kindergartners, we make that to do like a little bit of a game. And let's see who, when you're in it, let's everybody get into your reading, and let's do your reading. Put it on. I'm going to come around, and if you finish with it, we'll get a sticker or we'll do something. Keeping them going during the time is very important. And if they're participating in live lessons, the teachers are hooking them and giving them games. But if they're doing recordings, it's not so much. So showing them how to watch the video, and it can, the little ones get a little, older ones get distracted as well. But keeping them going and giving them plenty of breaks. The attention span of a 5-year-old is about 10 minutes at best. So giving them frequent breaks and frequent check-ins is what I would recommend. And if there are some that are working in the same grade level, have the similar assignments, to allow them to talk about it together. And did you finish, and what did you learn? And help them to be more independent in finding it. Again, to-do tab, to do.
So how much guidance would you suggest that they have for the students, and how much input, I guess? My point being, do you think that they should just help them kind of navigate the process for the younger ones answer questions? Initially,
yes. The teachers are using, for the younger ones, we purchased Seesaw. So they're using Seesaw, which is a tool they were familiar with in the brick and mortar classrooms. We are also using other things with which we think our students are more familiar. So if they're having trouble navigating, try to build independence with them in short spurts. So I may get you started, but I'm going to leave you for 5 minutes, and then we're going to come back. Someone, Vonda, you mentioned timers. Timers are very important, and on the Chromebooks, they're the clocks and things that you can use. But having little egg timers so that I'm going to come back in 5 minutes, and I want to see how much progress you've made. And if you are having difficulty, here's the red cup, turn it up, turn it down, or use this ruler. Give them a way to ask for support if they get stuck, but help them to become as independent as they can. And reading the screen to them. There is an extension we're adding to the Chromebooks. It's for read and write. It's called Google Read and Write. But it is a tool that will read the screen to the students. And so when that comes out, we can offer and share that with you as well, to have it on board. And even the best readers can get fatigued with having to read long passages, and little ones may need help reading the questions even though they're short. So we are employing some supports. We don't want the students to try themselves, but we're employing some supports for that.
Thank you. A question came up about kind of timing as far as certain assignments. And so we know that content is being updated on a regular basis by teachers within the system. So what's the best way for a provider to know if there are any changes or things that they should be aware of that each particular student needs to know about?
You mentioned having the parent forward you emails about things. That's the number one thing that the teacher should be emailing, but we are advising them in our training next week with principals and instructional coaches. We're going to remind them that they can post assignments the night before and set a timer for them to go to the Google Classroom at 8 o'clock. We want them to, and I've been a victim of that. We were working and then something came out at like 3:30 and my son was transitioning and he missed it. And he said, I didn't even know that was in there. And I said, well, it was posted at 3:30. You missed it. We are going to be helping our teachers to remind them that you can post it ahead of time and set it to show up. But we do need to get those assignments in at the beginning of the day so that students and parents and providers can set up that game plan. The game plan with reminders about things that are happening during the day. The stream pops up. If the students open up their Gmail on that screen, and they don't always do that, but the Google Mail, it will kind of lead them to see what's in the stream. They can go back and visit that stream, and the stream will show you, for the little ones who have it all in one class, things that were posted, questions that were asked to the teacher, and maybe answers that the teacher gave. Sometimes teachers are making big course corrections and they say, oh, this didn't work, so to do it, do this instead. That's going to be found in the stream of the Google Classroom. But you be an active part of that stream, and if it's not working for you, let them know.
Okay, thank you. We had another, can notifications be put on their Google Calendar? The students have a Google Calendar. Can notifications be put on there so it pops up on their screen?
On the Google Calendar, the assignments will be on there and on the due dates. But again, I do like that to-do tab because the calendar is another place to go. The distribution list, someone mentioned the email distribution, so you get the same information that parents are getting for each student. Parents can set others up as providers, as guardians in Backpack, but our teachers are not sending those email messages through Backpack. Sometimes they're sending them through a listserv. They may be sending them through Remind. So our communication, we're asking them to be sure they push it through Google Classroom. So if you're there with the student, everything should be live on that stream, because we don't want you to have to go to your email over here, then go to the calendar over there, then go to the Remind app on the phone. Everything in Google Classroom can be synchronized so that it goes immediately to that calendar if you choose to check it, but it's also in that stream of information. So what parents are getting, there should be a video, if they're doing recorded lessons, that one link in the classroom, and it should be for the assignment. Here's a video and here's the assignment, side by side. Watch the video, let me tell you what you need to do, and this is where you do it. Those are the pieces that we want them to remain connected in the assignment. We are aware that some of our teachers are posting assignments in the stream, which is a challenge because without a due date and without an assignment that's linked in, it just kind of it doesn't go into cyberspace, but it doesn't go in an organized fashion in a place that you can locate it, that teachers can locate it, and that parents can locate it. So we are still continuing to do professional development with the teachers, and with what you're saying we have heard, we'll ask them to be sure that they communicate up front and early. Even if they did it the night before, they can schedule it to post at 7:30 so that everybody sees it in the morning. And the parents, I don't know about your parents, but most parents are working, and they may not get the email in time to give it to you. So we do want them to try to focus on that.
Yeah, thank you. I think there was a quick comment about desktop notifications. Gotcha. Thank you for that. Awesome.
Desktop notifications were blocked, and in the grand scheme of things, when they get their emails to desktop, my email is turned off. Notifications, if I left it on, I wouldn't get any work done because all day long it'd go beep, 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 beep. I don't do that. And for students, notifications, there are apps that will send notifications. There are programs that will send notifications. So if we left that on all day, it would just constantly pop up and be somewhat of a distraction to students. So desktop notifications won't just arise for students. That has been blocked. And maybe the calendar, if they leave their Google Classroom, their Google Mail, Gmail, it goes directly to everything that's posted to the classroom, goes directly to the Google Gmail. And so if they are looking in their Gmail, all the unreads will pop up at the top and they can be read. While the students are there, if you want them to open up their Google Mail, they can see that. And if something comes up after that first initial morning, you'll be able to see it.
We have run out of time, but if anyone else has any other questions, feel free to email them to me and I will send them to the school district. Or if you have questions for LaVonda, I'm sure she'd also be happy to give you some advice too. So I just want to say thanks for everyone for being here, but also thanks to LaVonda, thanks to Dr. McDavid, thank you, Whitney, for everyone being here, kind of supporting these students as they transition into this kind of new way of learning. So I appreciate everyone. Let me know if you have any questions. This recorded video will be posted on greenvillefirststeps.org/CARES Act. And so just keep us posted. We appreciate y'all.
Thank you. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Ann Lee, it's great to see you finally.
Good to see you too.
And you are saving this chat, is that correct?
I am.
Okay, great. We would love to take a follow up with everyone who was able to come today.
Yeah,
with
sure.
me. That's a wow. Wow, that's all I can say.
Yes. Yeah, we appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job.